Hello, my name is Maria Reardon and you're welcome to the CDETB Adult Education Service. The following stories were developed and written by students from the South Inner City Adult Education Service last spring. These stories were then published in December 2020 in a book of student writings. These are stories of personal learning journeys, of local history and landscape of the Ringsend and Dublin 4 area. Reading from their work today are Judy Kelly, Alan Dolan, Deirdre Howard and Eileen Roberts. We hope you enjoy it. Thank you.
My piece for the student writings is Dr. Bridget Lyons Thornton, 1896 to 1987 by Judy Kelly. In the early 1970s, I worked in the IMA, now the Irish Medical Union. A lady used to visit the office on Fitzwilliam Place several times a week. She lived across the road in a top floor apartment. She was in her late 70s and seemed always busy and surrounded by lots of bags, papers, bits and pieces, and always on a mission. The woman was Dr. Bridget Lyons Thornton. How sorry I am that I didn't make more time to talk to her. Little did I know what a life she had led and was continuing to lead. Bridget Lyons Thornton was born into a Republican family in Roscommon in 1896. Her family were poor farmers and she was sent to live with her uncle Frank McGuinness and his wife Kate in Longford. They paid for her secondary education. Frank instilled in her the interest in Irish history and also politics. She flourished at school under her French teacher, Madame Scholastica, who encouraged her pupils, saying, "There is nothing in life a woman could not do if she put her mind to it." Bridget certainly took this on board and was awarded a county scholarship to study medicine in University College Galway in 1917. She graduated in 1922. While a student in Galway, Bridget got involved in nationalist activities, aiding the escape of prisoners, handing over guns, and organising a Cumann na mBan branch in Galway. When Jeremiah O'Donovan died in New York, she was selected to head the Cumann na mBan section of his funeral parade. She joined her Cumann na mBan comrades in the basement of the forecourts during the Easter Rising, cooking and making tea, while also putting her surgical skills to use, employing a bayonet to cut up meat. Bridget also used her medical skills to aid injured members of the Irish Citizen Army. She subsequently was imprisoned in Kilmainham jail, but obtained early release in that May. After Irish independence in the early 1920s, Bridget became the first female commissioned officer in the Irish Army in 1922. She contracted tuberculosis in 1925, the same year she married Captain Edward Thornton. Edward also had TB and resided in Switzerland for most of the winter months. He worked as a lawyer, and they communicated through letter writing and yearly visits by Edward to Ireland. Bridget attended the National University in 1927 and finished a postgraduate degree in public health, after which she began working in the public health service in Kildare, Cork, and finally Dublin, where she worked until retirement. She helped treat many infectious diseases, and worked in hospitals and also as a volunteer. She was an avid educator of women on the importance of hygiene in protecting children from disease. She helped combat the TB epidemic in Ireland and became involved in pioneering the BCG vaccination. When Bridget, a member of Cumann na mBan who worked for Michael Collins and the first woman in the Irish Defence Forces, asked for military pension, to which she was entitled, she was denied. She had to sue the government to have her service recognised. In her later life, Bridget was a librarian in the Rotunda Maternity Hospital, where she was an advisor to the new doctors and was also always up to date on new medical practices. She was heavily involved in the Medical Benevolent Fund and was also a researcher in Trinity College Dublin. In 2014, President Michael D. Higgins honoured Bridget by opening Thornton Heights, Inchicore, a housing development commemorating the life of Bridget. Bridget Lyons Thornton lived a long and courageous life, surviving her husband, Captain Edward Thornton, who died in 1946. The couple had no children. She died at the age of 91 in 1987. Her funeral had full military colours, a tricolour draped coffin and a guard of honour formed by the Western Command fired a graveside salute. Thank you.
My name is Alan Doolan. I was bullied in my job, so I wrote a piece about it, and it's very hard to read it and getting emotions coming back to me. And like, it's not like a child getting bullied in the playground. It's like an adult at 47 years old. It was very hard for me. Like, nobody believed me. Absolutely nobody. Like, I had with the wife, and she believed in me. But that's it. Like, parents and all, oh yeah, she's all nicey to you. And I mean, like Jekyll and Hyde thing, completely. So I wrote it where it was. It was just intense, and like how to say, I had to go in all the time. She gave me bad hours, bad times to do, and she was roaring at me and all this, right? But I put a complaint about her and the way she was treating me, right? And then she was very nice all the time, completely. I should have gone on with that, but I didn't. And then I got fired from my job. I was told they won't, I can't do anything for you and all this. Just leave it, drop it, and all this. And I wouldn't drop. I said my full grounds, and I wanted to bring it to court. I was okay, and I started drinking more and all this. It was unbelievable. I was stressed out, but I stood on my ground and I kept her up, right? They offered me money. I didn't take the first offer. I took the fifth one. But since all that happened, I feel sorry for other people who had to go through that experience. But since that, they helped out the wife and all that, I couldn't have made it through it. No way at all. I understand the way people go up and say, oh, they killed themselves over this. I understand where they're going from that, but I could never do it. Not in a million years. It's not my way. I like to say that because I was drinking a lot, and when I joined the adults literacy, I took my mind off it, and that's what I love doing. I'm dyslexic. I'm a person that has to be shown what to do, right? And I took some of the classes, same class, over and over again, so I could print it into my mind. Once I'm physically doing things, I'm glad the way they're actually great. And I should have mentioned some places in Eve and Liberty College. The staff there, the teachers are actually brilliant. And I'm really grateful for them. Take the time to help me learn. Like, I couldn't even send an email or text message, but now because email, text message, okay, I'm still having difficulty of reading, but I could easily say I'm not dyslexic anymore because it helped what they gave me. And thank you very much to all this.
This is my piece that I wrote, Childhood Memories of the Dodder. by Deirdre Howard. The River Dodder played a huge part in my childhood, as it did for many others. I moved into my grandparents' home in O'Connell Gardens with my parents and sister when I was 6 years old. Most of my youth was spent on the Dodder bank with my neighbours and friends. My back garden was the boundary with the Dodder. Me and my friends would climb up the wall to the grass bank during the school holidays and play there. I would often go to the Dodder in my oversized, faded pink Wellington boots with my friends. We used to climb down the grassy verge, paddle in the freezing water and splash around. The older kids in my area attached a rope to a branch of an old willow tree, which was overhanging the river and hung on an old car tire. We hung an old car tire from it. We would stand on the old river wall, holding the rope and lean back to give ourselves some momentum, then launch ourselves out and jump so we would land on the tire and jump over the river. This seemed risky to us at the time because if a friend failed to catch you on the return swing, you would be left hanging over the river. The more daring amongst us would run along the wall so the rope swung in a circle and brought you back to the wall. You could keep running and swinging out in large circles as the speed of the swing increased. Of course, sometimes one of us fell and would have to face the music when they got home. You'd get a lecture about not playing on a dangerous swing and instructions to stay away from the river. When the tide was low, we would catch small flat fish and minnows with a net and put them in jam jars until it was time to go home. Then we would empty the jam jar into the water. Looking back, this seemed like a pointless exercise, but I remember the excitement of catching more fish than your friends. Times such as these spent with friends on the banks of the Dodder are among my fondest memories. The end.
Take Me to the Water. My name is Eileen Roberts and I'm a student at Ringsend's adult classes. And one of those classes is Take Me to the Water. Water, water. Growing up near it, you never want to be away from it. I was brought up in Sandymount. Well, the address was Sandymount, but to us it was the tail end of Irish Town, which is the tail end of Ringsend. My dad had gone to sea as a young man, aged 17, with Irish shipping, and due to an accident at sea, he had to have a leg amputated. When the accident happened, they were close to England, so he was brought to a hospital there. The Second World War was on at that time, and he was only 20 years old when he came out. You could say he went in a child and came out a man. My dad never lost his love for the sea, or should I say his sentimentality for it. When he'd have a few drinks, he'd sing, "Goodbye, old ship of mine, no more I'll sail the blue, for my days are through sailing on the blue. Goodbye, old ship of mine." Christmas morning, he always threw a holly wreath into the sea, and he'd tell us it was for all his shipmates that were dead. That was my dad. Part of my dad's compensation from Irish shipping was a job on the docks, hiring and firing men. He couldn't do it. So instead, he set up his own little business, selling potatoes, vegetables, flowers, chickens, rabbits, coal, turf, and of course fish from his horse and cart. Fish was always in my family. My great-grandparents, the Purcells from Ringsend, were fishermen. My great-granduncle Daniel drowned fishing at sea. And when I was a child, my Aunt Maggie used to tell us, my great-grandmother would sit in the park looking out to sea, waiting for her son to come home. You could see the river from the park then. During the salmon season, the men fished the river down the Pigeon House Road. My dad also fished it. I could wake up in the night to go to the toilet and the bath would be full of salmon for my dad to take to the fish market early next morning to sell. Harry, the man who helped my dad, would arrive with a horse and cart. They would load up and set off. They had to be there by 4 o'clock in the morning to make the fish market. The yard where the horses was kept was on Cambridge Road, the road where Ringsend College is now. Other people had their horses there too, so there was always lots of activity at the stables. We kept 2 horses, one for the light work and one for the heavy work. The heavy work was mainly the winter work, carrying coal and turf, as well as the regular goods. As children, we had to clean the stables and keep everything tidy. When the stables were cleaned, we would take our hand cart and go up the road to a joinery to get wood shavings for the floor. Our greatest joy was to get as many bags as we could carry on our cart and make the stables cozy for the horses. We really loved them. When I look back, we had no fear, and our parents never worried about us being there. Summer holidays were the best. We would wake up in the morning, get all our jobs done, and head down to the Strand or the Shellybanks with bottles of tea and batch loaf sandwiches. Once we were near the water, we were happy. Years later, when I moved away from the sea to a house near a river, which I could see from the house, if ever I felt lonesome, I would look at the river and the view of the water would make me feel better. That's it.